We are in the ancient city of Maresha. When you scan the Judea lowlands from geological perspective, you can see the uniqueness of Maresha by its area being covered with chalk rocks, and I will expand a little bit more in a few minutes. The caves in Maresha can be divided into 5 groups according to their shape and function. Let's start with bell-shaped caves. They are called that because of their shape. Their diameter is wide at the bottom and narrow at the top. The depth of some of such caves reached up to 25 meters. The caves contained quarries of chalk rock that was used for the cement industry or for the production of bricks. The second type, cisterns. They are very similar to the bell caves, and what is characterizing them is the staircase that the curvers left along the sides of the cave, and in addition, they have stone railings. The third type are caves of various shapes that were used as craft and agriculture facilities, such as wine press facilities, textile houses, wineries, and stables. The fourth type are burial caves. The best known burial cave in Maresha are the Sidonian burial caves. The burial caves were used from the 3rd century BCE to the 6th century CE. And now to the reason we are here today. The fifth type are Columbarium caves. The meaning of the word is the dove house. Dozens of caves of this type in the vicinity of Maresha were installed from the beginning as columbaria, which is the plural of columbarium. The most famous columbarium around Maresha is the one we are about to enter. We are in the most impressive columbarium cave in Israel. The cave includes about 2,000 small cells that are in the cave walls. The shape of the cave is of a double cross with a total length of about 28 meters. It has a main corridor and 2 smaller corridors crossing the main one. The dimensions of the small cells, that is height, width, and depth, are similar to the dimension of cells of other columbaria. That is between 20 and 25 centimeters on average. Regarding the role of columbarium in the land of Israel and in Maresha, 2 main hypotheses were put forward. The first, the columbaria were used to keep the ashes of the dead after they were cremated, as was customary among population that used to cremate their dead. This type of columbaria was discovered in Italy, mainly in Rome. Second hypothesis is that the columbaria were used for breeding pigeons, with the purpose being for ritual purposes or for food and to produce pigeon manure. I must add a note here about pigeon dropping or guano, a common term for birds' manure. Why do you need pigeons' droppings or guano? So it is important to know that guano is the most effective nature fertilizer. It contains nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, the 3 main elements which without them the plant's development will be limited, and that was already known in ancient times. And the last piece of information on the subject. 1 pigeon produces about 10 kilograms of manure per year. What is interesting is that the examination of the material at the bottom of the cave did not relieve anything to confirm any of the hypotheses. For example, Regarding the first hypothesis, no remains of teeth or human bones were found. As for the second hypothesis, no pigeon droppings were found in the soil samples taken from the cave. With that said, and even though the mineral and chemical test of the soil sample taken from the cave did not find remains of pigeons dropping, it should be noted that the finds at the cave is from the last stage of its use and not from the period of its first excavation and installation, so it can be assumed that if the small cells were indeed installed in the columbarium for use as pigeonholes, this use was common at the end of the 4th century and the 3rd century BCE. While after that, during the 2nd and 1st centuries BCE, there was another use of the columbarium that its purpose is not clear to us. It is important for me to add one more piece of information regarding pigeon breedings. It is an agriculture branch that was one of the most important in ancient times. The pigeons were put into a cave with limited light, with food and drinks for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, the hatch was opened and the pigeons were released. During the time they stayed in the cave, each pair of pigeons found a pigeonhole and treated the place as their new home, to which they would return when it got dark. This function of the cave gave it the name Columbarium, which means pigeon house. How the cave was curved. In the first stage, the cave was curved through 2 vertical openings that were installed in the upper caliche layer. The caliche layer, which is a type of white and stiff crust, covers the chalk rock. The chalk rock, on the other hand, is a soft rock that is easy to dig and it is waterproof. So the chalk rock below the caliche layer was dug out of the cave and was removed through these 2 openings. In the first phase of the cave excavations, about 200 small cells were installed along the walls. It seems that these cells and their use were the reason for the existence of the cave. In Maresha, between 50,000 and 60,000 small cells were found in the entire columbaria. About 85 columbarium systems were discovered around the national park. We reached the end, and as usual, a question for you. Where do they still breed pigeon in large numbers, and for what purpose? The answer will appear in 5 seconds.